Hi everybody, it's Cindy the Scrapologist, and I'm here to scrap with you today and just show you what I'm doing with my scraps. Do another use your scraps video. I started this earlier today. I actually made these on camera, but then I had an interruption. Two people showed up and my dog started barking, and I just had to turn it off, and I'm going to start it over again so that you don't have to hear the little yappy dog in the background. So what I first want to show you though is just a little something that I was doing yesterday, and it wasn't worth doing this on camera. It's just a little mindless task that I was doing. I had several scraps that looked like this, and it's got all kinds of writing on it. So I just turned on the TV and started cutting out these phrases. And I'm going to do the same thing with this strip. And just now I have all these nice little phrases. This one says, "The ability to see beauty never grows old." And so now I have all these lovely little phrases that I can just pull off and put on a mixed media project or stick on a junk journal. I can ink them up. I can cut them up even more, and I have some. I never have enough phrases around, so I was excited about this, and I'm going to do it with this. I have two more pieces of this, so it's just a mindless thing that you can do while you're watching TV if you have any scraps like this around. And then I'm just storing them in, this one's a little long, but I'm just storing them in this beautiful shell that I found when my husband and I went on a very special vacation. So it's a little bit of a memory I've had around that I didn't know what I was going to do with. So I'm putting all my little phrases in here, and it's going to go in front of me up on my shelf so I can pull them down anytime I want. And I'm excited about that. The other thing that I did that I've shown before is I just had these scraps which were already this size. I didn't have to cut them, and I usually, if something is already a pretty good size or is a rectangle or a square, I just kind of leave it that way. And so these looked like they would go well in a junk journal, so I just did some sewing on them. And just mindlessly sitting there with my sewing machine while I was listening to some music. And then I'll throw these on a project. If you're watching my Use Your Scraps series, you know that I like to be very organized. I used to not organize my scraps, and I just never got to them because I was always working on custom orders or projects for myself, and I just made a commitment a couple of years ago that every time I finish a project, I'm going to do something with the scraps. So the key is just to, after every project, make your scraps into something usable. I know I've said that before, but when I do mini albums, I have a lot of craft white and black, the thicker cardstock left over, and I do have some other videos showing what I do with these. There are several different things I do with these, but one video that I did recently, I showed you how to make these tiny little pocket thingies, pockets or tuck spots, whatever size, it doesn't matter depending on what size your scrap is. So yesterday, again, when I was just trying to use up the scraps so they wouldn't be collecting dust, I just started throwing little pieces of scraps right on here, and I didn't really have to even do a lot of cutting. I had scraps that were already pretty much this size. This one, and I stuck a little journaling card in here that was a scrap. This was a scrap. It fit in here perfectly. I just rounded the corners. And I did a couple more. So just using up my scraps. And then I made a few black ones too. I've got another black one here that, so I have more to decorate. I have many more of these, but this is, you make these and have them in a in an organized place in a bin or something, and when you have scraps, you can pull these out and start decorating them. I did show this video, as I mentioned. I'll try to find it and link it below. I showed this in another Use Your Scraps tutorial. And so the next step is, now these will go in a bin, in a nice little organized bin, upright like this. I have a bunch of baskets and little plastic bins. And on another day, when I'm not looking to do a big involved project, I will start embellishing these, like this one. This has a corner tuck spot, a button, some ribbon, twine, a journaling card. So I'll just sit and kind of embellish these. But right now they're usable. I can, if I need one of these, I have some that I can just pull for a project. So those are just some of the little things that I did yesterday that I would have bored you to death if I had made a video. So I just thought I'd show you the aftermath. Now today I have these scraps from a custom order, and again, the smaller ones, I show what I do with those in other videos. I make them into photo mats, belly bands, etc. I have other things that I do with the smaller ones, but I had some larger scraps, so I decided to make some thank you cards. I really need some thank you cards. I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and we have just the most loving congregation, and they're always doing nice things for me, and I hand out thank you cards like candy. So I'm always out of thank you cards, and I always need more. So I thought that's what I would do with these larger pieces today. What I did in the previous video where I got interrupted was I told you about, excuse my arm for a second, I told you about the 3 standard card sizes that I usually do. And let me center this. Okay. And so the 3 card sizes that I normally do are 5 by 7, 4.5 by 6 1/8, and 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And again, I'll list that down below for you. I had these pieces which were already 5 inches across. So I said, well, I'm just going to make 5 by 7 cards. So I cut these down to 7 inches, scored them down the middle. Then what I did was take, oh, I think I left it downstairs. I cleaned it and left it by the kitchen sink. But I have a stamp that looks like this. It's just a single flower. And I took my white pigment ink and I just stamped all over the front of the card. I tried being kind of random. I tried this one. I tried actually doing columns and rows, being a little more organized with it, and this one I tried just filling the whole card randomly. So I think I like these the best, but this one will do as well. And then I dried it with my heat tool. So already these are usable scraps. If you want to take it a step further and make a card, my next thought on this was with my silhouette machine, I cut, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Yeah, there we go. I cut a whole bunch of thank yous. And I was just going to put the thank you on here and make it a very simple, classy card. However, I used a paper that is just too cheap, and I couldn't get the thank out without it completely tearing up. This is a really neat paper that I love. I got it at Walmart. I like that it's 8.5 by 11. I occasionally need that size, and it looks like watercolors have been smeared all over it, but everything I've tried to use it for, it is either feathered or torn. So I think this is going to end up just being cut up for photo mats, this paper pack that I got. But the U came out, so I can kind of give you a flavor of, kind of a feel of what I was thinking. But you can also, if you have a thank you stamp, you can use that. you can just write, if you're a good writer, which I am not, you can just write thank you. So that's what I was going to do, and it was going to say thank here, and I'll probably embellish it a little bit. So that's what my plan was for these cards. But again, I'm happy with these for now. They're usable scraps. I might cut another sheet of these and actually make them into thank you cards, or I might just save these for something else. They're going to go in my usable scraps bin upright like this so I can flip through and see them. The next thing I thought I would do is, then I had a couple of pieces of larger black scraps. Normally I keep these on hand because sometimes I use smaller pieces of this black paper to make pockets and things for my mini albums, but I'm getting too much of that sitting around, so I wanted to make cards out of these as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to cut this down to, because these are bigger, I'm going to do the 4.5 by 6 1/8 card. Let me cut these really quickly. Six 1/8 by 4.5. You can make bigger cards too. These are just kind of my standard go-to sizes. Oops, 6 1/8. Now I'm going to make another 5 by 7, I think. This is a larger scrap. No, because I've got a crease there. It's going to have to be 6 1/8. Okay, this scrap is now a photo mat. That's going over here to the right into my photo mat pile. This has a crease in it. It's going in the trash. This is going to be saved for a belly band. And this I'm going to cut up into a photo mat. 2 photo mats. I like to do it as I go. Okay. So I'll get my scoreboard. And I do think, yeah, I'm going to score it down the center. I score it at 3, and yes, when you fold it, there's a tiny bit of an overhang because it's 6 1/8, but then I decorate the inside and it gives a nice little border. Okay, so now I have 2 potential cards here. And what my plan was for this, but I don't know that I sized it properly. Let's see. Yeah, I think that'll fit. So I have this stamp here that I actually got this at a yard sale, I think. Or somebody gave it to me. It's an Inka-Dinka-Doo stamp. And I don't know what the name of it is. But I am going to experiment with my white ink again and see how this looks on the black paper. See which way this goes. I don't know if there is a right way or a wrong way. I think I like it this way. Okay. And see if I can manage to get it on here straight. That's the other challenge for me. Ooh, I like that. That turned out real pretty. Oops, I was a little off to the side on that, but that's okay. It looks fine. And I've got a little bit of a room down here, which I left on purpose for a sentiment, if I want to put something there. And then usually I run to the baby wipes and clean this off. I'm really a stickler about keeping my stamps clean. A lot of people don't, but sometimes if you have really delicate stamps, the ink builds and builds and builds, and over time it does affect the stamp. So I like to take care of mine. Some of these stamps I've had since the 1980s. Normally what I would do right now also is set this with my heat tool, but let me see if I have an extra plug. Yeah, I think I do. Living in a 150-year-old house, electricity is a problem. We still have, actually the entire upstairs on one side of the house still has no electricity and no heat. It's original from the 1950s. They never put any electricity in. So, and then those rooms that do have electricity, some of them, like my craft studio, only have one outlet. So outlets are at a premium in my house. Let me just set this. I could put some embossing powder on this too if I wanted, but I'm not going to do that today. I don't have my supplies out. Very pretty. One of the things that I like to do when I'm just using my scraps is have a production line. So I'll make 4 or 5 of the same thing. That's fine with me. The point of this is not to make a card per se. If I'm going to sit down and make a special card for somebody, I'm going to sit and spend hours on it and haggle over it, or have anxiety over what to put where. But that's not the purpose of this right now. I'm just getting some usable scraps. So I will sit and just do a production line and make a bunch of one thing. So what I wanted to do here, what I thought I'd do, because it has these little dots here, is put some bling on. And I take my white paper scraps, if I have ones that are big enough. This is another useful thing for your scraps. And I just tape the whole thing of bling on the paper. And so I can kind of just flip through and see what I want, and it's all organized. I don't think I want that color. This color might be pretty. We'll set that aside. I have sparklies. These are a little too big. Ooh, I forgot I had those. I have to use those one of these days. So let's see, on this one, how about some pretty sparkly red ones. Let me get a tool here to help me lift these up. Because I've told you before, I'm a fumble fingers when it comes to teeny weeny things. It doesn't even feel like it has any glue left on it. Get another one. These might be so old that the glue's gone. Let's see. Maybe I don't need that tool. Yeah. So, of course, you don't have this exact stamp, I'm sure, but you can still, let me see if I can zoom in. You can still use a lot of these techniques and use this as sort of a template. Let's see if I can zoom in one more. It's not cooperating. Oh well. I think you can see pretty good. Stuck to me. So that's going to be pretty. I love the white against the black and the white against the craft. There's just something about it that looks, it just doesn't even look handmade, does it? It's really pretty, really elegant. And I've got a nice big one that I'll put in the center of the flower. That's pretty. And maybe put a few more right down there. So I hope that you all are getting encouraged to dig into your scraps with this series that I've been doing. It's nice to be organized and be able to shop your own craft room. It's amazing when you start making useful scraps. It's amazing what you end up with on hand. I am trying to limit my buying and trying to use up what I have for my own use anyway. For custom orders, I buy whatever the customer wants. But for my own projects, I'm having a lot of fun using supplies that I've had around forever, and I keep saying one of these days I'm going to do something with that, and it never seems to happen. So there, what do you think? I think it's very pretty and elegant. And I'll do the same thing on this one, but I won't bore you with that. Might do gold on the other one. And then another thing, just the last thing that I did with my scraps that I did yesterday off camera was I had some white scraps. And so I put them through my embossing, my Cricut, what do you call that? My Sizzix. There. I had to go look. And I embossed these daisies. Daisies are my absolute favorite flower in the whole wide world. I love daisies. And these will look pretty if I wanted to do a bigger card. I could, let me see. There's one that's on the side. Did I have one on the left? No. So I could kind of cut this down and have a pretty edge over here, use my edge punch, and put this on a card as well. But these are going to go into my usable scraps pile. And one of these days I'll make cards out of these too. So there's some ideas for you today. I would love for you to comment below and let me know if you're following along, if this is encouraging you to use your scraps. Give me a comment below, and if you have any questions, maybe you have a stack of scraps and you're wondering what the heck to do with them, ask me and we'll see if I can come up with something. That would be fun. In the meantime, I'll see you next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.